Now, many days have passed since the chaotic vote in the House of Commons calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, but the political fallout continues. The Prime Minister has now weighed in, warning that MPs are being violently targeted, adding that the events in Parliament were a dangerous signal that intimidation works. So just how toxic is the political landscape? Well, joining us now to discuss is Dr. Philippa Whitford, who's at the SNP MP for Central Ayrshire. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Rishi Sunak says that the events in Parliament last week is a sign that intimidation of MPs works. Would you agree?
Well, obviously, the fact that there was this last-minute meeting just before the debate on an immediate ceasefire was called, and then a complete change of convention suggests that. I mean, the reasons given kept changing. The first one was that Article 31 was out of date, and then it was concerned for MP safety. Now, Lindsay Hoyle has certainly always been concerned about MP safety since the murder of Joe Cox. But if that's really the reason, why were not all party leaders involved? Why was there not a discussion about this generally? You know, feelings are running high since the appalling Hamas attacks on the 7th of October, but also people watching the devastation unfolding in Gaza. And so it would be important, really, that all MPs would be protected if they felt themselves threatened. Now, I understand people wanting to march, protest, write to their MP, but threatening MPs and their families is just something that's not acceptable.
And is it something that has been increasing?
Well, I'm lucky enough that I have not experienced that. To me, the biggest threats I faced to safety was more during the Brexit Parliament when, you know, things were very tense outside and around Parliament. But obviously there are MPs who feel that they are being very targeted and have had to look for extra protection. And, you know, I think that's appalling. But actually then saying that you're going to be changing your processes because of that, I don't think that's a good look. What we should have is political leaders bringing communities together, trying to calm things down. But that's not what we've seen over the last weekend with Lee Anderson and Suella Braverman.
Why then campaign to have another vote on this in Parliament if it's this discussion is making the situation worse for people? Why do you need to discuss it again? Surely the motion the Labour amendment went through on Wednesday. Why? And it calls for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. That's the wording slightly different from your ceasefire motion, but it went through.
So you're suggesting that actually, if there are difficult situations, Parliament shouldn't discuss them? The UK is...
No, I'm saying that a vote went through already on this, and therefore Laura, why do it again?
The UK is selling arms to Israel. It has defunded UNRWA, which is the most important humanitarian organisation within Gaza. So my understanding is that the further debate will be talking about what power does the UK have? They've been abstaining in the UN and the UK in the UN Security Council. So this is actually to look at moving that debate on. At least the achievement of last Wednesday, setting all the chaos aside, is that we have Labour using the word ceasefire for the first time. And we have all three major parties, and indeed I'm sure others, agreeing that an invasion of Rafah would be absolutely catastrophic, with the majority of the Gaza population now squeezed in there.
As you say, there has been that agreement. We hear that your leader at Westminster, Stephen Flynn, is writing to Sir Keir Starmer and Sir Ed Davey, calling for them to support a fresh motion. How much work is being done to get the wording of that right so that there can be agreement on it?
Well, that's my understanding, is that he's offering to meet with people and discuss wording. People are attacking the wording of the original motion, despite the fact that the term collective punishment was in the Labour motion passed at the Labour conference last Saturday, and therefore there was no reason that we would know that that was, something unacceptable. But Stephen Flynn had written to other leaders at that time saying, if you want to meet and we discuss the wording, we're happy to do that. I hope that we can try and get more of that going forward.
That was the Scottish Labour Party that voted that through. It wasn't the Labour Party at Westminster.
No, but Keir Starmer was there, and, if you're saying that, well, it doesn't matter because it's only the Scottish Labour Party, I don't think that's a great message to Labour members in Scotland. But I think what we are seeing is that as time has gone on, with almost 30,000 people killed, two-thirds of them are women and children who can't possibly be held accountable for the horrendous Hamas attack. People are watching this on their phones. There was huge sympathy on this.
But Dr. Whitford, if the SNP really wants agreement on this, we've heard discussion that there might be wording about the transfer of weapons and ammunition to Israel in this fresh motion. Surely that's the sort of thing that a current UK government and perhaps the next incoming UK government can't give assurances on at the moment. Which means you can't get agreement on this.
Under their own rules, export licenses are meant to take into account where weapons are being sent and how they will be used and on whom they will be used. So actually, this isn't asking for a change in legislation or a breaking of the rules. It's actually asking for the UK government's own rules to be applied. And that should apply to the next government as well.
Dr. Philippa Whitford, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.